Hello, I'm Jacques Halbronn. I would like to continue my lectures on French astrology, but this time I will do it differently. I will bring the contribution of French astrology to English astrology. And I will speak on the Christian astrology by William Lilly, 1647, as it's written on the title page. In France, we have a critical approach of text, astrological text, like Ptolemy, like Nostradamus, and I applied my method to the case of William Lilly, which I already studied in a previous work dedicated to Claude Darriot. And Claude Darriot is mentioned by Lilly, page 258, Darriot abreached. Darriot abreached. And there is an influence of this French astrologer who wrote in the 1550s about auroral astrology, and I published a study on that subject, mainly the influence of Darriot, who is is a very important author for me, because I dedicated also another work to Darriot about the Splendor Solis, which is an alchemical Paracelsian corpus. I published in 1990 a study on Darriot and Lilly. Okay, but my approach today, we are the 19th of November 2004. I would like to prove that what is called Christian astrology is composed of not 3 books as written in the title page, but 4 books. And secondly, that in fact it was published in 2 volumes. The first volume included only the first and the second books, and the second volume included the third and the fourth books, which doesn't appear clearly at first sight. I use this reprint published in 1985 with a study by Geoffrey Cornelius at the end. My theory is, and what I wanted to demonstrate here, is that someone else has written the second volume, the fourth and the third and the fourth books. How am I going to demonstrate that? First of all, the first volume is made of 2 studies, one about the use of an ephemeris, also called an introduction to astrology, and the second, the resolution of all manners of questions, which are of course dedicated to auroral astrology. But there is a second volume included in this edition of 1647, which has a different presentation. You see, it's really a second volume, and it is called An Easy and Plain Method Teaching How to Judge Upon Nativities, which is supposedly a study of the natal chart. But this volume, in fact, has to be divided into 2 parts. One is an introduction to nativities, and the second part is called, in fact, the effects of directions. but a part of this division, it's still mentioned as being on the Christian astrology as being only made of 3 books. So this is already certain strange things, and of course, the first page of the whole book will give the illusion that it's only one unique document. Christian astrology made of modestly treated in 3 books. So this page has probably been added at a certain stage. This is my first point. The second point is that the second part, the second volume is connected with the question of fixed stars very clearly in the last volume, in the last part, which should be the 4th book, and there are the directions of the sun and moon and midheaven and ascendant rising sign to quite a succession, quite a group of fixed stars, and it's written clearly directions of the ascendant to fixed stars, directions of the moon to fixed stars, etc. And but while in the first volume, as I call it, there is absolutely no mention of fixed stars. So this is another point. The third and last point will be that in the first part you have a presentation, a quite normal presentation of the 12 houses, from the 1st to the 12th houses, while in the second part it's not at all like that. Both in the 3rd and 4th books you have 1st house, 2nd house, 3rd house, 4th house, and then 6th house, 7th house, and then 5th house, 9th house, 11th house, 10th house, 11th house, 12th house, and house 8. So the order of the houses is totally upset in order to put the 8th house at the end, which is rather logical since it is the house of death. And it's exactly the same distribution appears in the 3rd and in the 4th books of the 2nd volume. The difference is that in the first case, the 12th house, the 8th house is not even mentioned. It is the 12th house is mentioned, and after a certain point, the rest of the study supposedly connected with the 12th house, in fact, is connected with the 8th house. So they don't, by sort of superstition, I suppose, they don't even mention the 8th house clearly as a normal division of the books. So this leads me to believe these 3 main points, main observations, leads me to believe that Lilly was probably not the author of the 2nd volume because of the treatment of the stars, the fixed stars, and the treatment of the order of the houses. And as you probably know, I specialize in this sort of study of rebuilding the real story of the book, and I made a lot of illustrations, namely in the case of Nostradamus, which is, as a matter of fact, also the centuries are also divided into 2 volumes, and those 2 volumes had very different destinies. During the time of the leagues in the 1580s, 90s, there was only the 1st volume which was published, and the 2nd volume, centuries 9th, 10th, and 8th, 9th, and 10th, appeared only afterwards. although there were forgeries which gave the illusion that the 10th centuries were really had been really published in the 1550s. Thank you for your attention.